Everyone is talking about AI, but in most companies, AI is mostly used for small things, writing emails, maybe generating bit of code, summarizing documents. But what if AI could actually run real business workflows? Not just assist people, but actually process data, make decisions, and complete tasks across systems. That's exactly what we are going to explore today. Instead of just talking about AI, we are going to watch it work. Joining me today is Ishita Jaiswal and Jack from Multimodal.dev, a platform building AI agents that can automate complex workflows. And we are going to do something fun today. Let's dive in. Before we jump into the demo, Ishita, just give us a short version. What exactly is multimodal? If a company leader is hearing about it for the first time, how should they think about it?
Sure. Sachin, thank you for the amazing intro. So at Multimodal, we build playbooks that are supposed to automate really high stakes workflows in banks, credit unions, other kinds of financial services enterprises like private equity firms, for example. We touch really sensitive workflows like lending operations, KYB, KYC, deal making, diligence, technical diligence, and such across all of these institutions. And we have a series of AI agents that work within each of these playbooks that conduct tasks like triage, diligence, decisioning, reporting, thereby automating the entire workflow that we're automating end to end. And so at the end of it, we have a result that's examiner ready. Every output has full audit trails. So you're not worried about, when regulators come knocking on your door, what are you going to show them? So any outputs that we have are just making sure that we're cognizant of the regulations that exist in that particular space. But that is multimodal. We have about 100 playbooks today live within the platform and over 15 customers in the financial services domain who are using our product. I lead growth for multimodal. Jack here is our podcast lead. And together we've been doing this alongside our founder and CEO, who I believe you've talked to before, for about 3 years now, and hoping to continue onward with with
Yes.
more visionary agentic AI products for financial services.
Yes, I had an amazing call with the founder CEO of Multimodal. The episode will be live soon. Is this idea basically that instead of humans manually handling workflows, you can deploy AI agents to run those workflows? Is it correct?
Yeah, it's somewhat correct. I will expand on it a little bit though. We think human intelligence and human expertise is irreplaceable. It's just that a lot of that expertise today is still caught up in manual workflows and paperwork and grunt work that humans shouldn't have to do. Agentic AI being where it's at, it can handle most of those tasks with a high degree of precision. Now, there will be cases which are complex. There will be parts of a job or a workflow that are much more complex and do require human input. And we strongly believe that human input should be reserved for those areas so that you're seeing the best of machine, but you're also seeing the best of humans come together within these institutions and optimizing these workflows.
I think the best way to understand this is to actually see it in action. So let's jump into the platform. Can you walk us through what a real workflow looks like inside multimodal?
Yeah, for sure. I'll be happy to do that. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and show you our platform, which is called Agentflow. Now, Agentflow as a platform is available as SaaS. You can deploy it on your virtual private cloud, and we have done it for multiple institutions. Or there's always the option of going and deploying it on-prem, which is rare, but for some larger institutions, we've done that as well. Within Agentflow that you see here, we have multiple segments. So we serve finance, we have served insurance as well, and we have private equity here. And then within each of them, you see there are multiple verticals that these industries will recognize. So just to give you an example, I'll go into retail banking and I'll show you some of the playbooks that we have there. Now, remember, each playbook is made of a series of agents that can do data extraction, that can do triage, diligence, help with decisioning, create audit ready, compliance ready reports, and output documents and memos and letters. Each playbook also knows what kind of documents to expect, what rules or logic to apply to the data that has been extracted, what kind of outputs to produce, and which third party systems to integrate with in order to make it as seamless of an experience as possible for each financial institution that we work with. Each playbook also comes with a series of steps that are outlined here. So this, for example, is a student lending playbook. It's made of very simple instructions around data extraction, eligibility checks, decision making. When it does that, it plugs into internal as well as external systems to be able to actually take all of that context in and then make sure that the outputs it produces are aware of that context. It touches the right data and it's able to kind of extract the right information out of the different parts. Then it does that decision making bit, which is this approved? Is this denied? Are there other checks or are there other flags that have to be done in order to make this decision? And then if a decision is not approved or denied, if it needs to be routed to a human underwriter, it's able to go and route it and make sure that that underwriter is notified and the process downstream takes place as is possible. There are also a series of tools that we call. So there's a lot of tool calling that happens here. There's a lot of skill calling that happens here within each of these playbooks, and each playbook is pretty technical for the domain that it works in. Um,
So, Ishita, if I understand this correctly, normally a human team would have to go through this process step by step, collecting information, analyzing it, making decisions. But here the AI agent is handling the entire flow. Is
That's
that
right.
right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. If this were manual, and it is manual in a lot of banks today, a lot of banking institutions today, a file comes in, you have usually an analyst or a junior loan officer or an underwriter going through it, making sure that all the documents are present, all the data in the documents is correct, you're extracting the right sort of information, then making sure that everything is ready for the underwriter to review. Then the underwriter actually does the diligence and decisioning and produces the outputs. All of that is highly manual. Now we're at a stage where, with minimal assistance from that human underwriter, from that expert underwriter, you can get to a stage where you have that output that you can send to a borrower or a broker that has initially sent in this application. That's the real value add here. And you end up saving hours and hours of work when you work with a playbook like this.
How many AI agents are typically involved in something like this? Is it one AI system or multiple specialized AI agents working together?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So we have a suite of 6 AI agents today within the platform, and the number of AI agents can vary from one playbook to another. But in a complex playbook is end to end. It does everything from data extraction to decision making. You will have involvement from at least 5 or 6 of those AI agents. Namely, the AI agents are unstructured AI, which works as an ETL layer that's going to convert your unstructured data into structured information for AI to process. There's document AI that works with different kinds of documents to extract, normalize, classify data out of them. Then we have what we call conversational AI and database AI. Both of them are meant to be interfaces that help the underwriter or the loan officer or any SME search through multiple documents or through structured databases. We have decision AI that helps with things like triage or decision making or eligibility checks or red flags and such. And then we have report AI, which prepares the final report and the audit trail and any documents that need to go out to the end customer or a broker or borrower in this case.
Taking the thread from the unstructured data and structured data, where does this data actually come from? Is it pulling information from company systems like CRMs or APIs or internal databases?
Yeah, so each playbook, the way we have it here, is actually integrated with third-party systems when we deploy this in production. We will integrate with CRMs, we'll integrate with drives. We also integrate with loan origination systems and any other third-party systems that the bank has. We pull data in directly from those systems to reduce the amount of friction that there is. However, just to show you what this experience looks like if you were to use the platform, and for some reason, if you didn't want to go ahead and do that automatic data extraction, you could actually go into what we call this executions module here, which will allow you to go ahead and drag and drop files directly within the platform. But if you're using the web app for multimodal here, you could just go ahead and you would have the option of just taking multiple files at once of different formats. It can be images, Excel files, PDFs, DocX files, and you would just use the drag and drop mechanism here to drop them into the application.
See, at this stage of the workflow, is the AI just organizing information, or is it just, or is it actually making decisions as well?
Yeah, it is making decisions. That's a really great question. I'll go ahead and show you the kind of decisions it's able to make. So this, for example, is a very common playbook that we see all the time, which is a mortgage analysis, mortgage loan analysis playbook. Now here we have a set of documents that we're using, which in this case is a tax return, some bank statements, some ID documents and such that you're going to have here. Very common in a mortgage process or any lending process. Most banks will recognize documents like these. Now, once these documents do come in, our document AI will extract all of the data from these documents very nicely, cleanly segmented, properly organized here under different labels and categories. And then within this report, you'll find several decisions that are being made on the data that has been extracted from these documents. So, for example, it identifies that there's a conflict with different tax returns, or there's an undisclosed liability, or it actually makes several micro decisions around identity and KYC verification. You have decisions around income stability. It's making a lot of calculations along the way. And then it makes the final decision around the loan itself, which is, do you approve or do you decline? It does so with confidence scores and sources and citations for everything. So it will cite anything that it has taken from any document so that there is no doubt. And that is very important for these institutions to be able to trust AI. But yes, it does make decisions which are very, very detailed with sources and citations and confidence scores.
Ishita, one question people always have when they see automation like this: where do humans come in? How do teams review or approve what the AI is doing?
Yeah, absolutely amazing question. And we hear this all the time from, the customers that we're working with. So I'll just give you an example here. This, for example, is an undisclosed student loan liability. And we are getting a recommendation that's asking, request full documentation for the student loan, including the loan statement. Now, when something like this gets flagged, typically the bank or the lending institution has a process in place. They will either, if this were manual, their fraud team would go in and take a look at something like this, or they would have someone who is like a junior underwriter or analyst going in and coordinating outreach to the actual customer. Now, what this system will do, it will automatically notify the person on the team who's supposed to go and review this. So they'll get a notification here, which is like this. They'll be asked to go ahead and review this particular file, and they could go and see that there are some issues with this file that need to be resolved. They would come in, they would resolve those issues. If there are things that need to be corrected here that the AI has probably gotten wrong, and that can always happen, the AI cannot be 100% right, although we do see a very high accuracy rate of around a 99%. If something is wrong, they could go ahead and correct it. But that is something, just one example of where humans come in. There will be a lot of cases which are so complex that the AI has a very low confidence score when it makes a decision. And in those cases, like a 50 confidence score is very, very low for this industry. In those cases, the human has to come in and weigh in and make a decision just because the AI either doesn't have context or isn't well positioned to make a decision here.
If a company wants to use multimodal, how customizable are these workflows? Can companies build their own agents and processes using multimodal?
Yes. Yes, absolutely they can. So each of these workflows are actually customized very, very closely to how our clients work. Our forward deployed engineering team, which is an amazing team of several engineers, works directly with subject matter experts within each of our clients' organizations. So, for example, if it's a lending institution, our FDE team will work with the SMEs, which are underwriters or loan officers within that institution or within that bank. And they will make sure that all of their processes, all of their risk appetite, all of their policies and guidelines and manuals are very cleanly mapped into agent flow here. And, we're able to kind of go in and make sure that everything that they do currently is exactly as is within the platform. On top of that, if institutions had the desire to go and build their own workflows, that's always possible. So the playbooks that I showed you before are actually customizable. As I said before, we have a library of about 100 playbooks spanning across different kinds of workflows like lending, customer onboarding, fraud and dispute management. Now, let's say I want to go and create my own version of a KYC workflow. I, as an institution, can clone this playbook, and then I have the option to customize it. And once I do customize it, I have controls over how the agents act, how this workflow is supposed to act, what kind of documents I'm going to ingest, what will be the schema for each of those documents. But that is very much possible. The reason we have made it so is because we understand that institutions have a unique competitive advantage in the market. And when they use AI, the last thing that they want to do is get rid of that advantage, which is why a one size fits all model just won't work here. And this has to be customized for every single client.
Can we get a deeper insight for a person who's watching on playbooks, how the playbooks works?
Yeah, for sure. And if you look at one playbook here, which I just showed you mortgage lending in one
Yes.
case, but let's say this one is a student lending playbook and I have the desire to go ahead and clone it. Now, I could customize it, but let's for a second assume that I don't want to customize it and I just want to save it as a workflow. If I save it as a workflow, then it does become available to me to use within this executions list here. Now, within this executions table, I have the option of going in and selecting playbooks that I have converted to workflows. So here we have like several playbooks that we, have converted to workflows before. We can go into one of these playbooks and then drag and drop the documents that are required for them. So in a mortgage playbook, I would drag and drop a purchase and sale agreement or a pay stub or a tax return or an ID document. And once I drag and drop those in, then we go into this and do its data extraction, do its decision making. So this is our this is our report today. Now, this is how it's rendered within the platform. You could download it as a PDF if you wanted, but within this report, there's like detailed reasons and decisions, and then at the end, you get like a table like this, which tells you what are the different sources and outcomes with the full audit trail. You would also, in a production scenario, get a report of who was the human involved in this process and where did the AI make certain decisions versus where did the human make certain decisions. But that's something that's also available with.
Wow. So watching this live is interesting because it feels like we are moving from AI as a tool to AI as something closer to a digital employee. Is that how you think about it?
That's right. That's exactly right. When we built playbooks, we wanted each playbook to act almost like a junior analyst that would get onto your team and perform the work of 5 full-time employees, because it could work, overnight, on weekends. You don't really have a limit to how it works, but it goes in and it does the work of a junior analyst with the same degree of precision, with very high degree of accuracy, with making sure that it's going in and routing the right things to the right people. The way this is designed, it also has a self-learning loop. So every single time you make a correction or give feedback to AI here, it learns from the mistakes and it improves over time. So it becomes even more like an analyst, in that when it starts, it's operating by a set of rules and policies and manuals that it has been given. But over time, it learns how your team actually works, and then it starts adapting to those ways of to those ways of working.
What are some real examples where companies are already using this? What workflows are being automated today using
Yeah,
multimodal?
great question. So we have actually a set of very, very amazing customers across banking, financial services. One of our biggest customers is a credit union. They're called Forum Credit Union, and we are automating a part of their auto lending workflow today. That has been going on for a couple of months at this point. We have worked with Direct Mortgage for several years, which is this wholesale mortgage provider, on mortgage processing. There have been other bigger enterprises that we've worked with across the US. We also operate in other countries beyond the US. So we do operate in Romania today, as an example. We've worked in the European Union before on POCs and such. But yeah, there has been healthy traction that we're seeing, and it's increasing even more as companies realize the true value of agentic AI with everything that's happening in the market.
If platforms like multimodal continue to evolve, it seems like companies could soon run entire operations where human design the workflows and AI executes the large parts of the team. Is that the
That's
direction
right.
we are heading?
That's right. Yeah, I think that is the direction that we are going in. I think it's going to become more and more proactive. So for most of us, when ChatGPT came out in 2022, early 2023, we knew of AI as this thing that goes ahead and answers questions that you ask it. But I think since then it has evolved to a point where now it's much more proactive. You tell it what your end goal is, and it can go and take a series of tasks on, and it can go and make sure that it acts on the right things to achieve that goal. And that's where it's at right now. That's where we're moving, which is why we strongly believe in this workflow mechanism where humans will go ahead, talk about workflows, design workflows, do the hard thinking part, and then the AI goes ahead and understands what needs to be done to achieve completion in that workflow, and then it goes ahead and makes sure that it's able to take the right actions to achieve that.
This is the final question. For someone watching this, bankers, insurance brokers, what's a simplest workflow they could automate first using this platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say pick up any kind of lending, likely consumer lending, because those are the most simple types of lending. So you could pick up something like an auto loan, for example, or if you're a broker, insurance broker, you could pick up something like quote comparison and go and automate the document processing part of it, because that's the easiest, the fastest, and the highest ROI path that you can have within a very short time frame. If you automate that document extraction, so data extraction, document processing, checklist processing, those are a few bits of it. But if you handle how documents are processed within each of these workflows, then you end up handling a large part of it with a great degree of accuracy. And then that results in very quick ROI, which convinces you to go and experiment even more with AI.
For years, we have talked about AI helping people work faster. But what multimodal is showing is something different. AI that doesn't just assist, but actually runs workflows inside a company. And that could fundamentally change how teams operate. Ishita, thanks for walking us through the platform today. This was a fascinating demo.
Thank you so much, and really appreciate the great conversation here.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, Jack. Thanks for your time, Ishita.
Yeah, thank you.